Jennifer from Fiberflux. In this video, I'm going to show you how to crochet the Tulip Patch Shawl. This is a really fun and easy shawl to work up. We're going to be using some really basic stitches, but because we're switching colors between this pretty purple solid and this fun pink variegated yarn, it makes for a very dramatic and fun change of colors, and we have this nice V shape going on. This is a V shaped shawl, and I'll bring down one of the corners just to show you. So you wear it around your shoulders, and where we increase at the corner, it makes a really pretty kind of decorative, sort of lacy stripe down the middle. This is about 50 inches across the top edge and about 36 inches up each side. You can make yours as big or small as you want it, and it's just simply repeating some very simple rows. So let's get started. For this project, you'll need a pair of scissors, you'll need a tapestry needle, a 6mm J crochet hook. You can use a tape measure or ruler. It's helpful, it's not necessary. I like to keep one handy when I make any project. And your yarn. I'm going to be using a yarn called Naturally Nazareth. This is a worsted weight yarn. It's a merino wool blend. I did a Yarn 101 a ways back on this if you want to learn more about this particular yarn. But I'm going to be using two balls. Skeins. I have a skein of this variegated yarn called Dawn is the colorway of that. And then I have another one called Twilight, this solid purple. So I'm going to be using both of these. Each one of these is 200 yards. So if you need to substitute yarn, look for a worsted weight yarn about 400 yards because I'm going to be using two of these. Now, the shawl that we'll be making, you can just keep working it over and over, repeating the rows until it's as large as you want it to be. So I'm going to use every bit of this yarn, and so 400 yards of worsted weight on that. As a side note, I also wanted to mention that this is wound into a skein, so you'll need to wind it yourself into a yarn cake or into a ball by hand, whatever you choose, but it will need to be wound whenever you have yarn that comes this way. You'll need to wind it before starting your project. Okay, so I went ahead and wound the yarn into yarn cakes. I did this with a ball winder and a Swift, but if you don't have these, you can use a paper towel holder or even a very large knitting needle or crochet hook to kind of wrap it around. I have a tutorial on how to wind yarn using both of these techniques, so just as a side note. So let's begin. We're going to first put a slip knot on our hook. So wrap the yarn around your fingers to make a loop. Bring the yarn behind the loop, reach in with your hook, bring up a loop, and tighten. Next, we're going to chain 4. To make a chain, wrap yarn around hook and bring it through the loop. That's 1, 2, 3, and 4. Then, in the chain farthest from our hook, we're going to insert the hook into the chain, bring up a loop. Now bring that loop through the loop already on your hook. Now we have a ring that we're going to work our round 1 and 2. Okay, so what we want to do is chain 3. 1, 2, 3. This is going to set up our triangle. Then we're going to work 2 double crochet into the center of the ring. Wrap yarn around hook, bring up a loop. You'll have 3 loops on your hook. Wrap yarn around hook, bring it through the first 2 loops. Wrap yarn around hook, bring it through the last 2 loops. That was the double crochet. Work another double crochet into the center of the ring. Same way. Then we're going to chain 2. 1 and 2. My yarn's kind of creeping over here. Then we're going to work 3 double crochet into the center of the ring. So 1, holding that tail, 2, and 3. Okay, so that was round 1. And you can see it's already making kind of a little baby triangle here, okay? For round 2, we're going to work a chain 3. 1, 2, 3, and turn. Now in the same stitch, see this stitch right here at the bottom? We're going to work 2 double crochet. So 1 and 2, just like that. And then we're going to work a double crochet into the next stitch, double crochet into the next stitch, And now we're at this corner space that we created from the previous row. So to work the corners of our triangle, we're simply going to work 2 double crochet, 1 and 2, then chain 2, 1, 2, and then in the same corner space work 2 more double crochet. So 1 and 2, just like that, and that'll create that peak at the top. Okay, then we're going to work a double crochet into the next stitch, a double crochet into the next stitch, and then to finish off your triangle, you want to work, remember this turning chain at the beginning? We're going to work 3 double crochet into that turning chain space. So 1, 2, and 3. So row 2 is complete, and as you can see, it's very, very easy, and it's looking really good so far. Okay, so round 3 is pretty much like the previous round. We're just going to be adding side stitches. So remember before we worked 2 double crochets into the sides. We do the beginning and the corner and the sides the same. I mean the edges here, each triangle point is worked the same way for every round. But to grow our triangle, we're going to be adding these side stitches each time. There'll be more, okay? So what we're going to do is we're going to work a couple more rows together just to show you how those side stitches grow. And then eventually I'm going to show you how to switch colors, okay? So what we're going to do to work round 3 is chain 3. 1, 2, 3, and turn our work once again. Work 2 double crochets into that very first stitch. So 1 and 2. I didn't notice this before, but my variegated yarn has a little tiny bits of yellow, and that's really pretty, very springy looking. Work a double crochet into the next stitch and in each stitch until you get to the corner space. So just work a double crochet in each one of these stitches along the edges. Now you can see, like I described earlier, that there's more side stitches. Last time we just had 2 to deal with. Now we have lots more because our triangle has grown. Okay, and that last stitch there. Okay, now we're at the corner space. So do it the same way. Work 2 double crochet, 1 and 2, chain 2, 1, 2, and 2 more double crochet. All in that same corner space. That will create that turn of the peak that we need for our triangle, but also, as you can see, we're starting to get some stacked decorative holes, which will look really pretty when you wear your shawl, and they're all in a nice pretty line down your back or on your shoulder if you like to wear your shawl asymmetrically. Okay, so work a double crochet in each one of these side stitches all the way down until you get to the turning chain space. Okay, so just work a double crochet in each stitch. Now this is a kind of a design choice of your own, what you want to do when you are ready to switch colors. But I'm going to work 4 rows of each color before I switch colors. So we're going to do a couple more rows together. So now we're at the turning chain space and just do the same thing. Work 3 double crochet right into that turning chain space. And by working into the spacing, instead of figuring out what chain to work it into, it just keeps it really simple. This is a really easy and relaxing pattern to work on. So you can see our triangle is a little bit bigger and it looks really pretty. Okay, let's work one more round, and it's worked the same exact way, except this time we're going to have even more side stitches, okay? So this is, once you get the beginning of the triangle, the corner of the triangle, and how to end your triangle, once you get that down pat, you can just really mindlessly work on this shawl and grow it as large as you want it to be. So let's work round 4. Now I realize I've been using round and row interchangeably. This is kind of one of those hybrid patterns. I should be saying row at this point. I have to correct myself here. When we began this pattern, we began by working in rounds because the first one we're working into a ring, similarly to when we're working in the round, but really we're working in rows at this point. So I stand corrected. So for row 4, we're going to chain 3 once again, 1, 2, 3, and turn our work. We're going to do it the same way we've been doing it before. So work 2 double crochet in that very first stitch. So 1 and 2, then work a double crochet in each stitch up the side of your triangle until you get to that corner space. So just work a double crochet all the way across here. Just all the way up the side here. We're just working it. Each time you work a row of this pattern, you will spend more time working these side stitches. And I just have to point out again how pretty the variegated yarn looks with this pattern. Although solid yarn, as we're going to see in just a moment, looks equally lovely as well. Okay, that's our last side stitch. Then we're going to work the corner the same exact way. So work 2 double crochet, 1 and 2, and then work 2 chains, 1, 2, and then in the same corner space we're going to work 2 more double crochet. Same way we've done the corner in other rows as well. Okay, so you can see those decorative holes are still stacked on top of one another. Next, work double crochets in each stitch all the way down the side, and you should have the same number as the other side of your triangle. We're just coming down the side here, and as you can see, there's more side stitches than the last row we worked, row 3. Okay, we're coming up to the end. Now I will say, if you're using natural fibers like I am, you can block this and get these points really, really sharp once you're finished your piece as well. And if you've never wet blocked anything before, I have a tutorial for that as well. Now we're back to the turning chain space, and we're going to work 3 double crochet in the turning chain space to finish up row 4. Okay, so just work your 3 double crochet. And you can see our triangle is getting bigger and bigger and bigger, and it has a nice point at the top. And now we're ready to work row 5, and we're going to do that in the purple. We're going to switch colors. For this pattern, I'm going to do, like I mentioned before, 4 rows in the variegated, 4 rows in the purple solid, 4 rows in the variegated, 4 rows in the solid, and that will give us some really pretty contrast and create this really dramatic V in the coloring as we work. And there is some purple throughout my variegated yarn, so we'll coordinate. So when you're selecting yarn of your own, just look for something that coordinates, or if you really are after some contrast, you know, you can really go crazy with the colors with this pattern. Okay, we're going to switch to the solid color now, or whatever color you are using. So there's lots of ways to do this. I personally like to cut the yarn, and I think I always mention this, or I try to at least with my video tutorials, because there's other ways to join yarn. I like to cut mine and just tie it right on, okay? So I cut the yarn, fastened it off, and then we can move this variegated yarn out of the way because we're going to switch to this beautiful solid purple. It's actually not truly solid. It has kind of a heathered appearance. So anyway, see this last stitch that we worked? This very last hole? Insert your hook into that last stitch worked. Bring the new yarn through, and then we're just going to tie it right on. Okay? Just like that. And then we're ready to begin. Now, row 5, it's just the same row repeated. We're just adding more of these stitches along the sides. Okay, so insert your hook, bring up a loop, and chain 3. Same thing we've been doing. 1, 2, 3. We can weave these ends in later. Okay, so in this very first stitch, like we've been doing all along, work 2 double crochet, 1 and 2. And then we're going to work a double crochet in each one of these side stitches as well. So just work your double crochets all along the side, and you can see already that this is framing in this variegated yarn so beautifully. Just working right up the side here. You can see for each row we work, we're going to have many more side stitches to work. Okay, just working right up the side here into each stitch. And we're approaching this corner space, which we're going to work the same way we've been doing. You just get a little bit more yarn. That last stitch, work that last stitch there. Okay, now we're at the corner space. So do the same thing we've done. 2 double crochet, 1 and 2. I love those center pull balls of yarn. My yarn's just staying put today. Okay, now work chain 2, 1, 2, and then 2 more double crochet, all in that same corner space. So 1 and 2, and then see that first stitch you come to, work a double crochet, and then a double crochet all along this side as well. Okay, so you can see in just a few rows that we've worked, our triangle has grown quite a bit. It's not full-size shawl yet, or even a shawlette, but it has grown quite a bit. And that's because we're using this J hook. This is a size I really love to use. Okay, coming right down the side there. Slide things over a little. All right, we're coming up to the end, and we're just going to finish off the row the same way we've been doing. So basically work until you have no more side stitches, and when you get to this turning chain space here, just work 3 double crochet in that turning chain space. So 1, 2, and 3. Okay? So we've seen how to work the rows and also how to change colors. So let's look at our handiwork here. We can kind of sharpen up these corners here. I like to sharpen up my ends. Let's get those nice and sharp. So you can see how changing colors really frames this in and really adds to the shawl. Now I'm just using 2 colors. You can really make this a stash buster and use a spectrum of colors if you like. So to finish your shawl, just keep repeating the same row over and over, switching colors whenever you feel you'd like to, and your shawl will grow in width and it will grow in height as well. So just keep working the rows over and over and over, and then once we get towards the end of the shawl, we will rejoin and I will show you how to finish everything up. Okay, so I'm just working those last couple of stitches into that turning chain space, and then the shawl is almost complete. So I wanted to mention, I did do 4 rows of each color for every section, and then once I got to this very last color section, I'm almost completely out of the purple, so there definitely wasn't enough to do another purple repeat. But I was only able to do 2 rows of this. So I could have either stopped at the purple, but I thought that this would have added a really pretty border, so I just kept going. And I don't really have enough to do another row to continue, so I'm just going to leave it as is. I really like the way it looks. I'm happy with it. So once you've made your shawl as large as you want it to be, you can go ahead and cut the yarn and fasten off. Now because this is a striped project, you could have either woven in the ends as you went along, or you can weave them in by hand like I'm going to be doing. Okay, so fasten that off, and then I have a whole bunch of ends here, and I'm going to just show you how to do one of them. With striped projects, just keep in mind that you'll want to, all of these purple ends, you'll want to weave those into the purple section, and all of the variegated, you'll want to weave the variegated strand into that area. Just try not to cross over into the other areas because it'll really show a lot. So go ahead and thread your tapestry needle, and then we're just going to weave these ends in. Just go in one direction. And if you're using chunky yarn, just make sure you have a larger tapestry needle so that the eye of your needle can accommodate the chunkier yarn. Okay, so just come in one direction with your tail and then come back in the other direction to help kind of lock that tail into place. This will give you a little bit of an insurance to hopefully keep it from popping out. Okay, so just come back in the other direction and then just trim that off. And then you'll just want to repeat that for the rest of the ends of your piece. So our shawl is complete. It looks absolutely stunning. Now if you want to, you can block this. If not, it's totally up to you. And it looks very pretty. This was a very easy shawl to make, but it has some very dramatic, beautiful details on it. So that is how you crochet the Tulip Patch Shawl. Thanks so much for watching, and be sure and click the subscribe button to get all the latest Fiber Flux video updates. Thanks again.